Hi guys, um, this is just a little update of because I'm teaching myself programming again, something I used to do years ago, programming, and this is my current project. What I'm trying to do is recreate something I saw on a newspaper website. It's a little virus infection simulator, and it's a project just to help me learn the C# programming language and also the Unity environment, game engine. So I'll show you how far I've got with it. In fact, I don't know how well this will record, but let's just run it full screen. If it'll run, here's hoping it'll run. Here we go. It's just trying to compile it now. I can maybe cut some of this out or speed it up. Ooh. Here we go. So you can see these little blobs. They represent people, and the red ones are the infected ones. And when they collide with a green one, they infect that one, and then that one will be infected for 10 simulated days. The brightness of the blob indicates its overall health. This one's testing a scenario where the immunity only lasts for a fixed period. I can't remember, I think I've set it to about 20 days of immunity, but then afterwards they go back to being green and they can be reinfected, and every time they get infected they go down to 80% of their previous health. So if they keep getting infected and infected, they'll die. So in this scenario you can see if it's not impossible that immunity from the coronavirus might be short-lived. We don't know at this stage, and you can see here that it's from the graph at the top, it's self-sustaining. It just keeps going and going. But obviously this is an ongoing project. It's not finished yet. It doesn't have a user interface yet, and also I wouldn't mind seeing the figures. But now you can see, I'd have to estimate from looking at it. You can see there's about 40% deaths now, because the population have just been worn down because the immunity hasn't lasted very long. This little bit of code's glitchy now. Here we go. Yeah, and then the graph starts again. You can see the deaths. That's obviously represented by the colour black. The deaths are very high now, although it ought to be shown on the graph really, but I need to put in a thing for the overall population numbers. But you can see that it's the deaths are going very high, and it's still lingering on, because obviously they're not using any social distancing. So that's one of the next things I'm going to program in. If you could just sort of have, see what happens if, say, 60% of the population social distanced, but you'd still have some people passing it around. So that's it. It's died out now, and that has again, I need a user interface. I need to program the user interface to say, but that looks like about a 60% death rate, and then that's killed it off completely. So I don't claim that this is accurate to any real world situations. Funny enough, in programming terms, one of the most complicated things has been doing that very scrappy looking graph at the top, because modern game engines, they just don't want you to do your own graphics. But once I'd actually got it going, it's actually a scaled texture on top of a plane. But once I'd got it going, it excuse me, it was very easy to program. So one thing this shows is that you have these little clusters. But anyway, so one of the problems with the if you can call it a game, well, a simulator at the moment, is you have to understand programming to actually play around with it. But I can change some of the variables. So let's say, we wanted to start off with, obviously this will be in the user interface, with sliders when you start the simulation. But that's the next thing I'm going to work on, the user interface. At risk daily, it doesn't use that anymore, but the immunity period there is 20 days. Let's take it down. Obviously these are simulated days, but let's take it down to 5 days, so you've got 5 days of immunity. And then let's say, and also you see every person has an overall health from 0 to 100. So some people can survive getting it and then they'll recover, but that's how it's determined whether or not they recover. So percentage, does it actually use that at the moment? Let's just have a look. So can I put it to 90% infected? Let's see, I might have to go in and do that manually. Let's see, just get the little thing. This is the bit of code that instantiates all of the people. Let's see, random range, yeah, this should work. Let's see. So this is what did I set it to? But a very short immunity period, 5 days, and it should be 90% infected at the beginning of the simulation. So we'll see how that changes things. I'll just run it in the editor. Oh, it's not done it. It's not. No, that bit of code's not working properly. It's not done 90% affected, but it does seem to be doing the short immunity. So they immediately go back to green. Not immediately, after 5 days they go back to green. So this is really one of the nightmare scenarios if it turns out this virus, you don't have a long immunity period. So, but I can actually, just using the editor for the moment, see what the scores are. So we've got 80 people alive still out of 100, and the total infected is going down. But you see, this has always been one of the problems with coronavirus, and I knew about this because I'm a fan of post-apocalyptic fiction, but the problem is with this virus, it's not really deadly enough. So actually, if you increased the deadliness of the virus, which you could do just by manipulating those variables, it would actually burn itself out very quickly. And that might be, and that's the kind of thing that I want to make this simulator capable of. See, total infected, there's only 10 infected at the moment, but they're dying off much faster because they just keep getting reinfected. So that's what it'll be able to do. I mean, for example, social distancing is the next thing that I want to add in terms of behaviour. So see what happens if you make 60% of the population social distance, but of course that'll never be 100% perfect, so there'd always be a random factor. There would always be mishaps. So total alive we're at 55%, but I mean, obviously these are exaggerated nightmare scenarios where it just keeps coming back and people don't do any social distancing. There's no lockdown, but they're the kind of behaviours that I want to add to it, just to sort of experiment with them. You can see the black part of the graph there is sky high, but that's what I've been working on as a little programming project, to kind of cheer myself up a bit, during the lockdown, like you do. Let's see. Oh, it's still got a long way to go before it dies out. I wondered if this might even be better because more people would die and there'd be less carriers. But yeah, so basically when it's finished, you'll be able to choose all the variables. And there we go, we've got rid of it, and total alive 33, so that's 1/3. Yep. on me. So there we go. Stop that, and that's what I'll be working on in the night tonight. I'll just stop the recorder. Hope you're all doing well.